Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good night. Depends on when you're watching this. We understand the time zone situation here or around the world, not necessarily here in the United States. Just to say that some places in the United States are sort of different time zones. So we understand the challenge here. That is why I'm saying, it depends on when and where you're watching from, because now it's 3 minutes to 6 in Miramar, Florida, where I'm hailing from, and my guest is also in the United States. I'll be talking to him. But I grew up in a matrifocal single parent home. It was mother alone. She has to foot the bill. She has to do her thing, and I'm never ashamed to say my mother wasn't educated, and she had to be doing work here and there. She has to be doing a little domestic job there and so on to let us eat, and to ensure that we go to school. So she does what she needs to do in order to ensure our success. And I call it my mother who fathered me, as the book with that title. And my guess, he will tell you about his challenges growing up in a matrifocal single home as well, single family arrangement. And he had written a book, and that book is about his experience. And we'll talk a bit about that book. And it's really called The Fatherless Child. And, he's going to tell us about his experience. And I want you out there who are absent fathers to listen, right? You who are mothers, single parent mothers, to listen, and those children who are growing up in matrifocal family arrangement to hear us out. I have experienced it, and my guest will tell you about his experience. And Anthony, what's up, man?
Man, how you doing?
I'm good. But before we go into all of that, we want to know, who are you? Who is Anthony McKinney?
So I'm just a 32-year-old guy from Mississippi who now lives in Atlanta and is trying to make a name for himself. And I've made some mistakes. I've messed up some opportunities, but I'm also getting new opportunities and growing every day. So that's who I am.
Cool. Yeah, nice. And that's a good way to put it in terms of transformation, because we have all messed up in some ways. And the important thing is that we can transform. We can look back at what happened and transform. And I love that. But what I want to go into, I know most of our story will be about your childhood. But what I want to talk about before I go into the meat of the matter is your childhood as it relates to, age 5, age 7, before we go into some other story. What was it like, age 5, what you can remember?
So most of my childhood was pretty much me, my siblings, and my mom. And she made it seem like we were it. There was no one else for support or love besides our unit in the house. And so with that, she raised us very strict. So I could remember, like, at 5, 6, and 7 having a lot of responsibility, because she would have to go to work, and she wasn't super duper trusting with babysitters. So sometimes we'd have a babysitter, sometimes we wouldn't. So yeah, it was a lot of responsibility early on and a lot of struggling early on.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand, but let us deal with some of this fatherlessness situation, and later on we'll talk about your book as it relates to your experience. But I would like to find out from you, as we talk on Canute exploration, your topic in the podcast. What happened to Daddy?
So my father was, in simplest terms, a rolling stone. So by the time I was 7 or 8, he had 7 children that we knew of.
Okay.
And he had 5 different women who were his baby's mothers. And so he wasn't really in our lives that much. because of his lifestyle. He was a drug dealer, and had he he was a sex worker. Well, not he wasn't the sex worker, but he had women that were sex workers for him.
Yeah.
So he had a very illegal, fast paced lifestyle that really didn't have room for children in it.
Okay. So hence the fatherlessness. He wasn't around. We call him absent father, right? And you know, yeah, I understand that. And you know, I want to find out from you this whole thing about your childhood trauma. Talk to us about the traumatic experiences that you have had.
Also, in the book, half of the book is about my childhood traumas, and then the other half is it's like an oxymoron on the title, and it's about my 1 year that I was with my father. So my childhood traumas started at age 7. One of my distant cousins manipulated me into sexual intercourse with him. And so that happened for about 6 weeks. He was trying to initially have sex with my younger sister, who was about 6 at the time. But luckily, I had enough sense and courage to default him or derail him from her and focus on me. And so that's part of the trauma. And that just kind of snowballed into me allowing other experiences with some of my other male friends to just, kind of happen. As one part of the book, I'm talking about one of my classmates where we have a sexual encounter. He's like 2 years older than me, but we were in the same age group. And I really think I allowed that to happen due to what had already previously happened.
Okay.
And
Yeah. That is understandable. That is understandable, Antonio. So you are protecting your sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was.
How did your sister feel about this?
I mean, for a long time, and still till some today, I'm her hero. I'm her hero because in that situation, she was terrified. She's always been a little bit more shy than I was. And so she, being put in a situation where you're 6 years old and it's like a 13-year-old guy is trying to approach you sexually, that is terrifying. And, a lot of times is women especially don't have someone right there in the moment to be like, I'll take the fall for you. But my sister did. So she's very grateful for that.
Yeah. I understand that. So they taking that away from her, she would have come out with that sort of traumatic situation, and you took that from her, and that is commendable. And I must commend you for the courage that you had to and to protect your sister. I really commend you for that. At this deal with that kind of trauma? How do you deal with that kind of trauma? Because you are very young.
Yes.
How did you deal with it? What sort of mental challenge? How did you deal with it emotionally?
Well, I don't know if you know much about the South, but in the South they have it's not a don't ask, don't tell. It's kind of like a sweep all the bad stuff under the rug and it'll eventually go away. So I didn't learn how to cope with it at all as a child. I've recently learned how to cope with it, and that's part of the reason I think I wrote the book. So as a child, I compartmentalized it, and I ignored any emotion related to that trauma.
Yeah, we're gonna look at that book. I've actually garnered some stuff so that we can look at that book extensively.
Cool.
So what happened in Dustin Bell?
What happened with Dustin Bell? So, long story short, with that, he sexually assaulted me for about, I guess, a month, and then one day, my uncle's girlfriend, who was babysitting us over the summer, she caught us, and so when she caught us, me being a child, I tell everything. I tell the whole truth. And that day is very chaotic because he tried to say I was lying, and then I was saying that he was lying. So my uncle's girlfriend at the time was very confused. She ended up just calling my mom and my uncle, who happened to work at the same place. They came back to the house, and he and my uncle got into an altercation, which resulted in a very bloody fight. Um, and then we all went home.
So Dustin Bell was the person who assaulted you.
Yes, yes,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
he was the person that assaulted me, and we were. So my family. This is not in the book, but my family. My mother wanted to press charges against
Yeah.
him, right? As naturally, because her child was assaulted by him. My grandmother convinced her not to because if she was going to press charges against him, my uncle was going to have charges pressed against him as well for fighting a minor. And so
Oh,
my grandmother convinced my mother to drop all charges, and she assured her that I would be okay and I would get over it.
yeah. I know there's a sense of protectiveness, so to speak, within that
Yeah.
family setting because you protected your sister, and again, I said, that's courage, and that I appreciate that, and your mother protected your uncle, right? So it's a matter of let's keep the family rolling. Let
Yeah,
let's protect, yeah, as best as we can do. We know who is stronger,
exactly.
right?
Which I don't agree with, but I understand.
Yeah.
I feel like in that situation they should have kept the child's
Okay.
mental in the upfront and
Okay.
most concerning. But I do understand as a mother, you don't want to see your child probably go to jail for 10, 20 years for assaulting a minor. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah. 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 Look, living with so many siblings. How many siblings was it? How many siblings?
So my father had I was raised with only two other siblings. My mother has three children, two
Okay.
with my father and one with her late husband. My father, on the other hand, he had seven siblings. So in the book, I talk about our summer that we lived together, and it was five of us in the house at once. Yes, it was five of us.
And it was how do you feel? How was it? You have five of you, and you tend to there was sibling rivalry, I guess. Yeah, we
Actually,
all have
it
that.
wasn't. It wasn't. It actually wasn't. That's one thing I love about my siblings. There
Okay.
wasn't because we weren't we all were raised in the same area, kind of within a 20 to 30 mile radius,
Yeah.
by different mothers, of course. But we were so happy to be around each other, and it's still like that to this day. Like we just genuinely enjoy each other's company, and it's so many of us that if I don't like her or I don't like him, I can just go hang out with the other two or another one. Like so, we
Yeah.
always did it like that. It was typically so how me and my siblings' age range goes with the five that are in the book.
Right.
Me and my little sister, we are a month apart. I was born in June. She was born in August of the same year. Then
Okay.
I have two more younger siblings. They're like a couple of weeks apart. He was born in July. She was born in August, same year. And then we had a little sister who was about 5 years younger than us. And so she just tagged along with whoever she felt like she wanted to hang out with at the moment. But it
You
was
know,
more,
you know that whenever a sister say, while growing up, I don't like you, or brother say, I don't like you, they're
yeah,
just saying that. It just means you never get any of that. Hey, I don't like you today.
right. Well, we waited till we got older to say we didn't like each other. As children, it was pretty cool. It was like us against the world, especially staying with our father, who we barely knew. So
Right,
yeah, we were really close. And now that we're older, we kind of say, "I don't like you. I don't like
yeah,
you."
yeah. And that's a myth because we really like each other, but
Right. Well, we love each other. I don't know about love.
we love each other. You understand what I'm saying? That's just a talk. But it's good to know that that sort of dynamics exists. And we talk about dynamics. What sort of dynamic did it create having so many siblings? We talk about a few of it and a bit of it a while ago. But in terms of mother involved, bring her into the dynamics there now. How did it unfold?
Mother father dynamic. Well, my father's pretty dominant, and so when we were with him, he really didn't care about what his uh, baby's mothers had to say or their input. He respected their input because they had raised us for
Mhm.
so long, but he still did things the way he wanted to do. And so it was kind of like a tug and pull with the mother father dynamics from each of our mothers because they really truly didn't trust him. And he was firm in his stance as a man, saying that I know what's best for my children when they're with me. So they kind of had like a tug and pull and a battle
Yeah.
like that. We just ignored them and let them argue and went on about
Right.
our
Right.
business.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you learn from all of this, though? We're going to dig into the book soon. Some
Yeah,
aspects
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
What do you learn from all of what happened to you?
I feel like my childhood traumas taught me resilience. It taught me how to be strong, even if you don't feel strong. It taught me the importance of having someone, if it's just one person, someone that you're close to that you can confide in. Because that was my little sister for me.
Oh
I
yeah.
really couldn't talk to it about what happened to me. I couldn't talk to my mom. I couldn't talk to my dad because he wasn't around. And then I couldn't talk to my grandparents or anything like that. So I really only talked to my sister. And it's not like I wanted to talk about it all the time,
Yeah.
but I just still had somebody to confide in. I learned that was very important.
Yeah.
Having a very strong friend structure in your life was very important to me because if you read the book, you'll learn that my friends really
Yeah.
kept me out of some dark times. I didn't go into super details in this book, but I will in the next book.
Yeah.
But my friends really saved my life on a couple occasions. And then the experience with my father just taught me never get too comfortable with any one situation
Yeah.
because you can change at any moment.
Yeah. 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 Does it change who you are? This experience, does it change who you would have wanted to become? Does it put you in a box and say, "Hey, this is what you will become"?
You
That,
know, for a long time, I looked at it that way because with my life experiences and growing up in a small town where pretty much everybody that I knew I was related to, it kind of made me feel like this thing has happened to me. Everyone knows about it, and now I have to be what this thing has said I'm going to be.
yeah.
But now that I've matured and I look at it, I don't think that it put me in a box, so to speak. I think it just cultivated on who I was supposed to be.
Right.
It cultivated me into who I was supposed to be.
So, do you think that there's a thing called the child, a concept called the child is the father of the man? And what it's basically saying is that our childhood mold us into our adulthood. So we become adults in a certain way, personality and etc., behavior, based on what happened to us in our childhood. However, do you think that it's what you have experienced and what you have become, do you think that you could swing away from that mentally and behaviorally?
I think you could. I think you could. I've had this conversation with a couple of my friends before.
Yeah.
Yes, your childhood cultivates who you're going to be as an adult or has influence on who you will be as an adult. But I also think after a certain age, you should have the maturity and mindset enough to be able to change that if you don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's important, that you can know, because it's a matter of you being forced into being um who you are.
Right.
So it's not necessarily something that you had wanted to be, and you would have had the sort of autonomy to say, okay, this is not what I would have wanted to be, and that is critical. When you talk about humanity of the black man, what that means?
So in today's culture, especially, I feel like oftentimes black men especially, we're demonized
Okay.
before we're understood as human beings. So I wanted to share some of the things that I went through, and I'm going to continue to share some of the things that I've gone through to help bring back the humanity of the black man. I want, instead of looking at the news or looking at a black man walking down the street, we shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, is he going to rob me? Or, oh my gosh, is he a thug? Or, any of that stuff. You should say, oh, that's a human. That's a guy that looks like he might be going to work, or simply, that's a guy who may be having a bad day. Just look at us more like human beings instead of like weapons or something foul and disgusting. So that's what I mean by the humanity of the black man. I want to bring back the humanity of the Black man, because before we get into the Eric Garner situations or
Yeah.
anything like that, we were humans first, and we have life experiences that made us feel the way we do when it came time to us to lose our life or be demonized.
Yeah. You do you think I'm a black man naturally? Do you think that we're spoiled?
Spoiled?
Yeah. In this, yeah. I'm just asking. I'm playing the devil advocate here. We're
I
spoiled
think,
in the sense that okay, we're protected, so we just do what we want to do. We just feel protected. I'm just putting it out there.
now I can see where you're coming from with that, because I have noticed that a lot of mothers do spoil their sons.
Yeah.
But then I also feel like, so we have the spoiled upbringing, right? Because
Yeah.
we're Black men and they know the trauma that we're going to face when we become adults. And so we feel entitled to that as we grow up. And then we realize that that's really not the case and we don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just pulling you there.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's fine, right? You saw we saw going around in social media what went on in Memphis, right, Tennessee,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge. Do you think that we can create an environment that this is either reduced or eliminated, a peaceful environment, a sort of a talk? Do you think that we can go anywhere with that?
I would like to say yes, but that would take a lot of work from both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, not until I feel like not until the Black culture is able to come together as one, and then other cultures are able to open their minds to our experience, we can't have that conversation until those two things happen.
Right. Yeah, and we ought to have that conversation because indeed we are one and we need to live as one and be able to understand each other. You know,
Right.
so your book, The Fatherless Child, you know, it's very important that we talk about it. And I look, those listening on their favorite podcast platform, you might not be able to see this on Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast, but those who are watching may be able to. But can you describe the cover for us?
So that is a picture of me and my mother. And I was probably about 6 weeks old. And she told me that she had just got done feeding me and she was admiring how much I enjoyed the food.
Okay.
I just thought it was a really cute picture. She really wasn't mentioned super heavy in the book or our relationship, but our relationship is pretty much that. Yeah, we get into it, so there's a crack in it, but I love her to death and she loves me to death.
Yeah.
My girl.
Okay. Mommy is alive, is she?
Yes, she's alive.
Oh, hi, Mommy. Yeah. Yeah.
She's alive.
Get you, Mommy. But look, the fatherless child. I like the cover, right? And I see where Mommy is there and you're there, but there's no daddy, right? And
Exactly.
Mommy has been doing a lot, feeding you and so on. What do you think going through Mommy's mind? Is she ever discussed that with you?
Yeah, we actually had that discussion over Christmas when we were watching The Woman King together. She said that while she was raising her children, her 3 children by herself, she felt like she was always drowning.
Yeah.
Those were her words. She said she felt like she was in a constant state of failure and drowning. But to see that she was able to raise 3 children and, knock on wood, none of us have been to prison.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have children super young. We went to school if we wanted to. We got into good career fields. She's proud of herself now.
Mm-hmm.
Really proud of herself.
Mm-hmm. And that's Mommy's. Actually, Mommy. That's Mommy's picture.
Oh, that's my mother. Yes, that's my mother. That's Sonya right
Cool.
there. Yeah,
Right.
that's Sonya.
Yeah.
At 22. She was 22 in that picture.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Mommy had done a good job because from where I'm sitting, you have a very good personality, and I know, and you are progressive and focused and able to achieve what you want to. I
Yeah.
love that. Mommy's job.
Yeah, that's all her because I was a rebel child for sure.
Right, Mommy's job. That's how movies are, and that's good. They always stick with it. but you know, I took some stuff from the book,
Okay.
and yeah, and there are a number of things that is being said in this book. I'm not sure you saw that page, right? I'm
I
not sure
did.
if you want to. Can you, are you able to read anything from it, pick anything from what is going on there, and start to explain?
You want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool. So being raised in a single parent home affects you differently. You have to be an understanding chameleon, not planting your emotional roots too deep into any situation.
What that means?
Uh, that line right there is completely about my father and how my mother had to bounce us around a couple for that summer to find the perfect babysitter for us. So within, the summer's only 2 months and then you go back to school. So
Yeah.
within 2.5 month span, we probably had 3 different babysitters before we settled on the right person that she could trust and that actually took care of us while she had to work. So yeah, that statement it means that.
So if you go down more, you said she took parenthood very seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
that's expected.
No, but I'm talking about to the point to where my mother didn't have friends
Yeah.
until she became an adult. Until we became an adult, I did not see my mother with a real friend besides my godmother. And they never really hung out like that. She was literally about working, coming home to her children, making sure we did our chores and homework, making sure we were ready for the next day, going to sleep. And that was her routine for the next 20 years.
Mm, mm.
She was devoted to nothing but us. She had no outside life. I was
Yeah.
so happy when she got a man.
Yeah, and you know, she needs that sort of what you call now cushion, right?
Yeah.
Emotional cushion, because being a single parent is a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
And that's important for her to get that cushion. This is Canute Exploration. Your topic in the podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White, talking to Antonio. Tony, right, wrote the book, The Fatherless Child. Going further past that, we're looking at some of what is in the book here. While I think, um, can you read that for us, please?
Which part?
While I think,
Okay. While I thank her for that, she
oh,
acted as if it were her life calling. Maybe that was part of it. She was always, oh, sorry, she has always thought of her children, me, Cherie, and Dante, first and herself second. In many ways, this is still true to this very day. I hate that she does that, but I am forever grateful. However, no matter how hard you try or how much you love your kids, sometimes you just can't stop what the universe already has written for someone's life.
what are you saying? What are you saying there?
So my mother was very overprotective of her children. We didn't spend the night with a lot of people ever. We didn't go a lot of places without her, and and you would think that that type of overbearing person would be able to protect their child from any harm, but she wasn't. She just wasn't able to protect us from what the universe said we had to go through, in my opinion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mummy seems to be a very, very, you know, positive person. I am listening to her in your book,
Yeah,
feeling her in your book.
yeah.
The type of mother she was, and the fact that I am trying to see this good, but it tells me how important she is, and basically who became our hero, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in a sense, to be our hero. What sort of innocence? When you talk about innocence, there, what are you saying?
That was the title
Hmm.
is about the molestation situation. So I'm saying that I was stripped of my innocence to protect my little sister,
Oh, okay,
to
okay.
be her hero.
Yeah. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, and it's something that we talked about, and again, I applaud you for that,
Thank
right? No, I seriously applaud you for that, the fact that you were protecting your
I
sister.
mean,
And yeah.
but I didn't even think of it like that. Like, I mean, I feel like if you're an older sibling, you always want to find that moment to where you can be I'm
Yeah.
that big. I'm that big brother. I'm that big sister that was able to protect my little sister or my little brother. And
Yeah.
since my sister is a very strong-willed woman, and she always has been, I had very few moments to do that. But
Yeah.
that was one of the moments that I was able to say I protected my little sister.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. That's cool. No, so in your book you talk about Dustin Bell here, right? You see what's going on there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically a description of what goes on, what went on at that time.
Yes.
Can you read?
Dustin Bell closed the door behind me and locked it. Darkness quickly took over the small space. I could no longer see anything around me. I panicked and replied, "It's dark. I can't see." He replied, "Man, shut your ass up. You too loud. This is how you play the game." Too naive to know any better, I complied with silence. He then instructed me to get on my hands and knees. While he gently pushed down on my shoulders, I quickly followed his instructions and tears began to form in my eyes. With a quivering voice, I again said, "It's too dark in here. I can't see." He agreed to turn on the light, but told me not to ever look at him. I agreed with a head nod. He finally found the light switch and turned on the light. As I began to relax, he then said into my ear, "Take off your pants." "Huh?" I replied. With a frustrated tone, he replied, "Man, pull your damn pants down now." I slowly get off my hands while still on my knees, facing the black door. I pulled my denim shorts to my knees. I then placed my hands back on the cold concrete floor. He kneeled down behind me and used his knees to separate my legs apart from one another. I quickly turned my head to see what was going on. I see his shorts are pulled to his ankles, his private parts were exposed, and slowly grew larger and larger.
Okay, and I heard you reading that, and it must be traumatic. Yeah, and how do you feel when you read that?
You know,
The trauma. Yeah, talk to us.
I, I, I wrote the book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Never read it. Only
Oh.
besides to like to proofread it with my editor. I've
Yeah.
never sat down and read that whole book, and I believe it's because while I was writing it, it took me like 2 months to write chapter one
Yeah.
because I would find myself trying to write it, and then I would almost go into like a panic attack situation, and so reading it kind of takes you back to that place. It makes you feel a little uneasy. Like right now, my palms are sweating. While I was reading it, I was rubbing my
Yeah.
knee. I'm pretty sure that people could see I was moving my hand, my arm was moving. It
Yeah.
I mean, it still affects you. I think that's one thing when you're reflecting back on stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think it'll always be able to take you to a place of when it happened and
Yeah.
bring back some type of emotion that you had then.
Yeah. And I'm in psychology, and it's trauma counseling. That's part of it to get you to just closure. So you face it.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it's a good thing for you to face it, and eventually you'll get by it. So read the book. Read the
yeah.
book. I want to,
Okay, okay,
yeah, read the book. Not one that, well, you might not be able to read it at once, but from time to time, read some chapters of it, right?
okay.
So do that. Look, I need to ask you this though. Your father, all of this happened to you. Do you blame your father? You can say yes or no, dear, but explain the yes or the no.
I can't. Okay, so I blame him to the degree of if he were in my life,
Yeah.
and his reputation precedes him. So knowing his reputation and the type of person he was back then, if he were in my life present, that probably would have never happened.
Mhm.
That probably would have never happened. But at the same time, I can't blame him because he was completely out of my life at that point. Like I would see him once. Like I probably saw him once when I was 7.
Yeah.
From like the stories my mom told me when we used to hang out when I was like 2 and 3. From 3 to 7, I probably saw that man one time.
Mhm, mhm,
So I really can't blame him because he wasn't there.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. That trauma. does it filter off into to anybody else in your family? Because you had experienced it directly. Okay. But the knowledge that you had experienced that trauma, does it filter off into anybody else in terms of traumatize them as well?
I do believe so. So I believe it traumatized my mother and grandmother. My grandmother because she didn't experience that personally growing up, but she knew a lot of people that experienced that type of trauma growing up. So it traumatized her in that matter. It traumatized my mama in the sense of she felt very guilty for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and she blamed herself. Everyone else in my family kind of had pity for me. They
Yeah,
felt sorry for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The courage that you have, and I just keep saying I applaud you for that protective measure. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and that's how I feel about it. I applaud you for that. But
Thank
what
you.
I want you to do, right, is to send a message to the fatherless. Let's move into that now. Fatherless for any reason at all, right? Father died, a father run away from home, and we understand in psychology that there are some fathers who might feel uneasy at home because they are not able to produce for the family, and they're not able to supply what the family needs, so they escape and
Yeah,
leave the family.
yeah.
I'm not sure if that was the situation with Daddy at one point. But talk to, I see you smiling. You can talk about that if you want to, but also talk to the fatherless.
My message to the fatherless children in the world would be: remember that your parents had a life before you, and that there's no manual to parenthood. So, yes, you can hold them accountable for their actions or the lack thereof, but still keep in mind, it took me a long time to realize that they were humans. They had lives before children. Like, my mother had 20 years of life, my father had 25 years of life before she had children. So, you have to give your parents a little grace with the mistakes that they're going to make, because there's no guide to parenthood. There's not a book they can go buy and it tells them how to raise you.
Good, good. So that's for the fatherless children growing. Um, talk to the mothers like your mother,
Yeah.
my mother. My mother is passed now, but
Oh,
people like them.
yeah.
That's all right. Who need to hear something. What would you say to them?
For the mothers, I would say you're doing a great job because you're doing the job. Without you, your children would be in foster care. They would probably be dead, or God knows where your children would be without you being the parent to take care of them. So you're doing a great job for that alone. Um, you will not be able to protect your child from everything, and that's okay. Just love your child, and I feel like you should make sure you have an open communication with your child. Don't get so consumed in the day-to-day routine or what you have to do that you don't talk to your children. Find some time, whether it's 5 minutes a week or an hour a week. Find some time just to set it aside for your children, and y'all have a conversation. Y'all bond over a meal, or go out to a park or something. But make time for your child with the little things.
Uh, have you ever thought about, um, yeah, you're writing books. That is good. That, in my mind, is a ministry, so to speak. Not
Yeah.
not religious in particular, but something you're doing to help. Um, have you ever thought about doing something else besides the book, right? Perhaps helping persons who are fatherless, right? Be it a sort of a LLC or something, right? Have you ever thought of that, non-profits?
Yeah, that is crazy that you say that, because about I say about 10 years ago now, I wrote a business plan for a nonprofit, and it was going to be called No Love Lost. And I wanted it to be geared towards children who were raised in single parent homes. And I wanted it to be an escape for the child, 6 days a week, all year round. So, yeah, I have thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Right.
think you should carry that further and get it done, because you have that passion, and that is critical in getting this off the ground, and get help, because there are other you out there, there are other me out there,
Yeah.
who grew up in single parent, matrifocal single parent home, and have the struggle, the poverty that I had growing up, because of no father was there, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm Dr. White, but guess what happened? I know that I have to push myself to
Mhm.
be educated and to get through life despite those challenges. And you are doing that. You are pushing yourself to
Yes,
get
finally.
right. Yeah. So what's your plan in 5 years, 10 years? Talk to us.
5 or 10 years, I plan on having the full book series of The Fatherless Child out. I plan on having a children's book written. I plan on having a book about generational curses written. And the whole time while I'm doing that writing, I will be a flight attendant for Delta.
Cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love the passion, the ambition, the focus that you have. And Anthony, I'm hoping to hear a lot more from you. And I'm gonna get a copy of your book. We're talking about that. I'm gonna get a
Thank
copy
you.
of that book. And on the description of this episode, listeners, viewers, you will see a link where you can find the book. You can get to the book on Amazon. Do you have a website?
My website is currently down. I
Right.
did have a website, but right now the only thing I have is the link that I sent you, and I have a page on Amazon, an author's page that you can follow.
Okay. Is there an email address that persons could use to contact you?
Yes, email address axmtoday@gmail.com. That's axmtoday@gmail.com.
AXM.
Yes.
Can you say it in like alpha?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Alpha X Ray Mary, the word today @gmail.com.
Kade.
Yes, today.
They need that to be spelled, please.
T as in Tom, O as in Oscar, D as in Daniel, A as in Ant, Y as in Yo-Yo @gmail.com.
Okay, fine. So they get that, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure that they'll contact you. Hey, Anthony, it's nice talking to you. I really enjoy the talk.
Thank you. Thank you.
And trust me, keep the focus, keep going. You will get there. All
Yes.
right?
Thank you,
Thanks
bro.
for coming and Canute Exploration. Your topic in the podcast. Okay, that was Anthony. The book is on Amazon, people. Go and get it. Go and get it. You can click on the link in the description, and you go right there and buy that book. I am promoting that book. Hear what he has to say in writing, and hey, he's focused, he's ready to help, and we also want to perhaps buying those books will help Anthony to help others. So let's contribute as best as you can. Thanks for listening. Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White.